Hello, fellow classmates as well as instructor. We're going to go over a little bit of my experience for giving presentations. So this is written, obviously, in the post as well. And if you're listening to this, you've tuned into the audio version. I'm going to set up a couple of slides that go with this. But for the most part, it's just very rudimentary. Currently moving from one location to another. I'm moving from Bunkerville to Las Vegas, Nevada to pursue a director's position for a company here in Las Vegas. So I don't have my full studio set up, unfortunately. And I don't have access to a lot of my cool effects and stuff like this. Currently, I'm doing a project for Dixie State University. Before that, I was an instructor for their outreach program. And over the years, I've worked for either credited or non-credited outreach programs, depending on the university or college. While working for College of Southern Nevada, I had a unique situation take place where I was brought in as a lab assistant, no big deal, but I took home all of the readings and I read everything and then learned everything there was about how to use Microsoft Office and pretty much everything there was with the PC. Now, what exactly does that mean? At that time, nobody really even knew how to navigate this machine. So learning how to use a mouse was almost a complete class in itself. Learning how to search something. Now, searching, for the most part, didn't exist. Nobody pulled out a phone and said, hey, Google. Google didn't exist. Yahoo was in its infancy. And basically, it just, everybody had to learn everything. And we had to actually put in www. I mean, how crazy is that? But it's true. You had to know where you're going, what you were searching, what you were looking up. Search engines, I think Dogpile, if I remember correctly, if anybody actually still uses that one. I know it is out there, but I don't think anybody uses it, sadly. But Dogpile is where you went for search engines that search search engines. One of the main things that I remember also teaching is basic HTML. At that point in time, all of the websites were made out of HTML. Now, yes, I realize we have some basic HTML blocks that exist, but I mean, there's a lot of Java, there's a lot of C++, and of course PHP. Because what is PHP? Well, that means you program the user interface according to the demands or requests of the user, and having that live environment that continuously changes to what you want is what we strive for now. But at the time, everything was static, which means standards the same, nothing changes. If I went to Yahoo and you went to Yahoo, it was the exact same page. There's nothing that was different. But now we have all of these optimizations, we have all of these things. Now, so for me, it was a matter of teaching these things. I would teach it to older people. I would teach it to people entering the market. And the interesting thing that happened at that time was we had a lot of people that would come in and learn just enough to be dangerous. And we'd be very open with them. Look, you're learning just enough to be dangerous. You've taken one class in HTML and you can write a web page, but you don't know everything there is about writing web pages. So what does this boil down to? They got jobs writing web pages. They were very soon let go because they didn't actually have the skills necessary to be effective off that one class. And you know, robotics. I remember going to some people that were placing people in different classes there at the college and saying, hey, I want to get into robotics. And they said, well, that's great, but we don't have any classes that we offer in robotics. And now they have entire things on robotics. I think they even teach it in high school. It's amazing. The progression of things and where things have moved into. The last classes that I've taught mostly is Excel, and that's just because it's so rudimentary and never changes, so it's straightforward. I mean, yes, you can take and get super macros, and you can make other changes along the way to really bring out the better success with your programs that you build, and you can make it integrate with other software, which is great. You even have downloadables that you can look at in Excel and then have those downloadables be imported automatically into other things through naming platforms. But the problem is the naming platforms for the most part is static, and you can't put an algorithm in there so that it's a variable, name. And what this means in layman's terms is I can't make it to where when I make the new download that it goes into the old information without me changing the name to match what the old information download program is looking for. And this overwrites all of the previous information, so it's not saving each time you do it as well. Which brings me to another factor that I remember running into when it comes to school. Everyone thought that the recycle bin, for some reason, is where you stored your most important documents. I've never understood this concept. I've never even seen a YouTube video. I've never seen anything telling me that this happened. So, this was such a bad, continuous issue that I put this in the beginning of my classes eventually, that you never store anything you want to keep in the recycling bin. I don't know. I don't know this concept. Why people thought that. And then the briefcase. There was this weird briefcase for the longest time, and it was basically my documents kind of thing. And then there's the desktop. At that point in time, the computer was set up in such a way that everything on the desktop was activeware, and everything on other portions were archive file. And if it's activeware, that means all of those things were running actively, ready to be turned on, because it took a while for everything to open. So they figured if it's on your desktop, they want you to be activeware. I remember going to people's computers that were covered their desktop, and I would put all of it in a file, put it in my documents, and now just documents, obviously, that I dropped the my. And their computer all of a sudden is running really quickly, and they're like, how did you fix this? And then, well, there's all my stuff. And I'm like, by leaving all of that on there. Now, I don't think that actually applies now. I think they've changed that, and so it's not such an error anymore. And right now, for me, I actually use multiple users for everything that I'm working on. I have a different setup for each one of them. And so I just don't get confused on what files where and everything along those lines. In the written platform, of which this is the more psychological breakdown involving what it takes to do proper instruction and how to put it together, about finding your audience and other things of that sort. Instructor and classmates, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, and looking forward to listening to as well as reading all of your posts.